Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. The World in 2017 is what we're looking at in this special year-end edition of The World this week. We are in the company of Tracy McNichol of The World This Week's partner, The Daily Beast. Welcome back. Welcome back as well to Anne-Elisabeth Moutet of the Sunday Telegraph and of the Daily Telegraph. France 24's Douglas Herbert, who's about to make his first prediction for 2017. What's it going to be?
First prediction, we're going to see a new season of House of Cards. Going out on a limb.
Life.
We've downsized.
In real life.
Should go into hiding now that you said
more
that,
conservative when it comes to predictions. We're also with Nicolas Vado of Cartooning for Peace, who has his retrospective of 2015-2016 out in French and hopefully soon in English.
Not for that one. Maybe in the future, if I sell thousands of copies, maybe.
All right. Okay. We were talking before the break about crucial elections to take place in Britain, and that took place rather in Britain. The negotiations take place over Brexit. Crucial election coming up in Germany in 2017. Crucial election in the Netherlands, and of course here in France, it's also an election year. The left seems in tatters. Incumbent François Hollande becoming the first sitting head of state in modern history to forego a run for a second term. The slight bump in unemployment and consumer confidence proving too little, too late. Ahead of January primaries, the center-left polls now suggest the socialist standard-bearer might even run in fifth place. Earlier this month, that standard-bearer, for the time being, according to the polls, is his Prime Minister Manuel Valls, who quit the government to run. The early favorite would be the previous president's PM, François Fillon. He's a conservative, and if politics is a threat to the frontrunner, Marine Le Pen of the far-right National Front, relishing the prospect of facing what she calls understudies.
Fillon
in one corner, Valls in the other. Is the clash of the understudies. In theatre, understudies often have the same flaws as the leads, without having the slightest qualities. The leads have now been kicked out, which was the right decision on the part of the French people. But now they have to understand that they'll still be getting the exact same policies.
Anne-Elisabeth Moutet.
She's sitting pretty on this one. The thing is, if you vote for change, which is what everybody has been doing worldwide, might go on in 2017, then change is Marine Le Pen. We might find this incredibly unpleasant, but Fillon has been Prime Minister for 5 years. The only reason why he won the primary was that he was such a transparent Prime Minister, and he had such a sort of active president, Nicolas Sarkozy, that he felt that he was less well-known, and therefore he was more of a virgin face, so to speak, than either Sarkozy or Alain Juppé, who was 71, felt 91. And Manuel Valls suffers from having been for 2.5 years the Prime Minister of the most unpopular president in the history of the Fifth Republic, François Hollande. And he's also, Manuel Valls, the problem with Manuel Valls is a very different thing. Manuel Valls is somebody who's trying to be somebody he doesn't. Well, I don't know whether he is not, but certainly he was this sort of jaw-first or authoritarian type of prime minister, former home secretary, and now he says, "Oh, I want to bring everybody together, and I'm friendly to everyone, and I like kittens and teddy bears." Well, that is not very believable. So you've got Marine Le Pen, and Marine Le Pen is the solution, which may be the wrong solution, but she hasn't been tried. And she now has this sort of psychological advantage that you've got people who never were supposed to win elections, such as Donald Trump, who now win elections, and Brexit happens. And she says, a hat trick. There has been Brexit, there has been the Trump election, I can win. The French system is against her in terms of organizing the election when you've got a first round in which you separate the candidates, and the second round in which you vote for, one against the other, you vote somebody out in the second round. So it is possible that she may not win this time, but it's very close, and we've seen 2016, it is entirely possible that there will be an upset. And the thing about the Front National is that they've got two women. They've got Marine Le Pen, who is the populist from the north. She was almost elected in the northern region region where she's been campaigning for years. She almost became president of the region. These are people who half of them used to vote communist. These are former left-wingers who are despairing of everything. If if the issues change, then we've got her niece, Marion Maréchal Le Pen, who is the classic extreme right candidate in the south. She's about Catholicism and immigration. So depending on who she faces in the second round, the possibility of the socialists, then the Marion line is going to be pushed at the forefront. And if it's François Fillon, then it's going to be Marine Le Pen saying, I'm going to defend your rights, I'm going to defend your social welfare, I'm going to defend all sorts of things that this right-winger doesn't want to give you. They've got a system. It's like playing cards. They've got a system together at the Front National, so I would not discount them.
But is it enough? Is it enough to get enough people to push you over the top in that second round in May?
Well, it's interesting, the good cop, bad cop thing that they have to play with the two Le Pen women. But Fillon is so poorly positioned to confront Marine Le Pen that it's strange that he'd have been picked for that. But he was he won because of this sort of the fait accompli problem that people have, where it seems, Juppé and Sarkozy seem so clearly set to be in the next round, and that Fillon popped out of nowhere and as the underdog, but now he's the favorite, and that's a trickier problem to get over.
And also because his position was perhaps less of a centrist one and more accentuated to the right. We can hear François Fillon back in August talking about colonization in a positive fashion.
No, France is not guilty of having wanted to share its culture with the peoples of Africa, Asia, and North America. No, France did not invent slavery. France is 15 centuries of history since the baptism of King Clovis.
I listen to that, and everyone this mainstreaming a little bit of François Fillon and trying to call him a little more centrist in a sense. I think in a sense that Marine Le Pen is actually more scared or apprehensive of the prospect of facing him in a second round than she makes out in that understudy comment. I think that in many ways I see Fillon as being able to siphon a lot of her vote away. I think that a lot of people look at Fillon as sort of a more stable, more sober, austere man who, but in a sense, in a lot of his bedrock values, in many ways, does share a lot of the values of the Front National. And you're looking, though, still at the prospect of election. I think the real story here is in France of two, I would say, essentially far right politicians. You're going to have the left knocked out of a presidential election potentially in a country that is known as the Provident, has always been the welfare cradle. I
wouldn't bet completely on that because...
I'm not betting on it. I'm saying a prospect.
No, you're not betting on it.
In fact, I'm making zero predictions.
What the election, the Fillon election showed is that French people are tired of social democracy and they wanted clear choices. So they want a right-wing choice with François Fillon and they want a left-wing choice with Mélenchon, who's ahead in the polls on the left.
The head of the communist-aligned party of the left.
He's Bernie. Yeah. He's Bernie Sanders.
But like you were saying, there'll be a question with the Front National because the Front National is a very divided party. So are they going to vote for a right-wing Front National?
You don't think, like Tracy, that it's a good cop, bad cop act?
Maybe, yeah. And if you look at Florian Philippot, for instance, Florian Philippot comes from the Jean-Pierre Chevènement sovereignist movement, and you can't put Florian Philippot and Marion Maréchal Le Pen in the same room. They are on opposite side on everything. So the National Front might be pretty divided before the election as well, and that might have an impact on the election.
Fillon makes it easy for Marine Le Pen on economics because he's
a far left. He's got a far left program on economics. Philippot.
François Fillon. His healthcare reform, which now he's yanked, and he won the right-wing primary for being uncompromising, and then compromises.
That was such a mistake, and that was extraordinary. He was advised stupidly by people who, all of this is supposed to be against the establishment. We're against the people who go top down and tell you what to do. And then he get yet another guy from the Promotion Voltaire of ENA, Henri de Castres, the former chairman of AXA Insurers. You cannot be more of an insider than that. And this man has this great idea that, the French national health system is going to be divided between serious illnesses, which the French system will cover, and all the rest will go private. You have the flu, you break your leg, you go to private insurers. This means, in effect, destroying the compact that has existed in France since 1945. Even on the right, people are against that. That the Fillon people thought that you could float such an idea and that it would not harm you durably shows you what a bunch of amateurs they are.
Pulling it from the website, I mean, that's still in the bank for Marine Le Pen, and she'll use that all the way to the end happily. It's just it's foolish because she just has to sit back, and all of the stuff you associate with the Front National, that's read between the lines, because she can just sound compassionate and she'll protect you, the mother of the nation, and that sort of thing.
And Elisabeth, how closely are Telegraph readers watching? I know it's early days, right? Because the election's in the first round's in April, second round's in May. How closely are they watching the French election?
As somebody who writes out of Paris, I think they're not watching closely enough. But I will say this: 2.5 years ago, I interviewed for them François Fillon, and partly because he was taking part in the conference that we were also sponsoring, they called him the next president of France and the stand first. And I took about 2 years apologizing for that stand first, saying I did not write it. And it's going to be interesting if, after all, the editors stand first is validated in this. I will say that right now, Britain, first of all, the Telegraph is looking at Syria a great deal. And second, Britain is largely looking at Britain and Brexit. And they're more looking at the French in the way that they're going to hamper or not Brexit. And not so much in ways of the arcane inside baseball that you get in French elections, which is, frankly, you try to explain to them the difference between Sylvia Pinel and Vincent Fillon. And, they yawn. It's hard for everyone.
Nicolas Fadot, what is a seller when you're drawing the French election? We have multiple different characters, so it's very interesting to do because we haven't talked about Macron yet. And the former economy minister who's running as an independent.
And he's a quite interesting figure too. But I've got a cartoon from Damien Glé from Burkina Faso, which we can show here, which says, Où est la gauche, where is the left? And that will be his major issue because people from the left tend to think he's from the right and people from the right tend to think he's from the left. So that's why it will be extremely difficult for him.
He's one of those polling ahead of the socialists right now.
Yes, and he doesn't want to join a primary election because he's not a socialist, basically speaking. And so it will be interesting because you've got so many people who could actually be in the second round. It's going to be very interesting. I've got a few more here. This is from Chapat from Switzerland, and it's funny how the old-fashioned becomes fashionable again.
But it is spot on because they say, "Oh, vintage" when they look at this because
and they look like hipsters.
But that's the crux, isn't it? Yeah. It's hipsters, insiders.
Yes.
It's the France that's plugged into globalization and the France that's not.
And look at this one from Gio. In 6 months we'll be returned back to the future, 1940 or 1969.
A reference to President Pompidou, who had big ears.
Pompidou was a much more interesting president.
But he had big eyebrows.
And you were talking about prediction.
Yeah.
I made a prediction with this cartoon that was published. I'm going to show it to you. It was published on the 11th of December 2015.
Oh, God.
And I was half right. So I hope I won't be 100% right.
Yeah, and the arbiter in the middle, the referee,
is the same.
ends up being Putin.
By the time the French vote in April's first round of the presidential election, the 45th president of the United States will have been in office for 3 months. Friday, January the 20th is the day Donald Trump takes office. His only clue so far to the way he'll govern are his cabinet picks, Douglas Herbert. What have you gleaned from that? What can we say about the Trump presidency?
Your show has a limited duration. How long do we have here? It's the cabinet of horrors, I think we've called it on air at times. No, look, to be on a more serious note, it seems that every cabinet pick so far is either taking obviously outside government in a lot of respects, but digging from all of the sort of reservoirs that you would assume he wouldn't have dug in during the campaign, especially from Wall Street. He has quite a few of those bankers and the Goldman Sachs types that were sort of anathema during the campaign, the people he was ranting and raging against. But what strikes me, I mean, if you look at any of them, whether you're looking at energy, he points a guy to energy who back in 2012 when he was running for president, Rick Perry basically said that he would abolish 3 departments of the U.S. government, one of them being the energy department. So you have a guy now potentially running energy who didn't even want to see it continue to exist. You have a climate skeptic, basically, or almost an outright climate denier, overseeing a lot of the issues that will involve the environmental policy going forward. I said, you have a Goldman Sachs guy in Treasury. Right now you have a woman who's basically made her whole career militating against the public school system in favor of charter and voucher schools, which sort of masquerade as public schools and masquerade as something good for low-income people trying to get a good education, but really undermine the public system. Women like that, multi-billionaire donor also to the Republican Party, she's going to be at the head of education. You obviously have, the people who sort of put fake news front and center in the headlines being right up there whispering in either ear, having Donald Trump's ear. And at a time when a lot of people say, precisely because of his inexperience and precisely because he's a rank outsider with no real political experience under his belt, zero, he's going to rely more than ever on people's to give him advice. So almost more, perhaps one of the things that I'm most apprehensive about is the advice he's going to get, the people he's surrounding him with. You at least say about the president, even if they're not up to the job, even if they're seen as unqualified, undisciplined, or don't have just the basic knowledge, at least they surround themselves with good people. But you ask what's going to be the worst first year for a president in office. They said, back Lincoln was the worst first year when he came in March 1861, his first inaugural, in the midst of a nation that already had 7 states that had seceded from the nation. That was a pretty bad first year, trying to get the nation back together. Lyndon Johnson coming in, picking up the phone, calling Harry Truman, ex-president, and saying, oh, I'm having a hell of a time here. Didn't really know what to do first. George Bush, 34th week in office, sitting there in Florida and having Andrew Card as chief of staff whisper in his ear, second plane's gone into the towers, America's under attack. Pretty bad first years. I think Trump might give them all a run for the money.
I think really, I mean, it's... if you are so dismissive in such a blanket way, you're going just to justify them because, first of all, he appointed a very good defense secretary who's General Mattis, who's quite remarkable. Second, you cannot say that voucher schools undermine the public school system. The public school system has undermined itself for 40
that's a whole. We have to have an education debate out about
you apply them the same solutions, so you get the same dismal results, and it is the system undermining itself. And the idea that you try to provide something, there will always be very expensive prep schools for people who are rich. The idea of the voucher system is not something that you can dismiss like that, saying, this is just a billionaire having fun. So I think you are being so partisan that you are going to give Bannon a run for his money on the other side.
Into his cabinet. I'm looking, as Charles Blow, a New York Times columnist.
God knows there are others who are
Charles
not so
Blow
good,
said this is not normal. There's already this tendency that everyone's trying to normalize Trump. There's this give him a chance school of thought, which is really, even Hillary Clinton, to her credit, did say that the day after, before he had started forming us, this normalization of Donald Trump is something you have to be vigilant against.
So what else do you want? Civil war?
No. But vigilance, and I think there's right now more and more people.
It's not vigilance, it's militancy.
More and more people,
right
I think,
now.
and I think the
I was
thing
against him, but you can't go like that.
It's not a matter of being against or for. I think more and more people on the day after the election were in that give him the benefit of the doubt, give him a chance school of thought. He's had now over a month making quite a few choices, tweeting even more, making a lot of what are probably indisputable, a lot of early foreign policy, if not blunders, at least missteps, to give people pause for thought and thinking, wow, what is happening here? How much benefit of the doubt, how much honeymoon, even before he's sworn in, should he be given?
Tracy McNichol, let me ask you.
Red flags are going.
Let me ask you this. One of the areas in which the jury's still out is bringing in people who are not politicians. Good or bad thing?
Scary.
You think it's scary?
Sure.
Or isn't it good to have somebody who thinks outside the box, like
no,
Rex Tillerson to be
the box is there for a reason. We need a box. I think we probably need a box because because Trump tends to go all improvisational. And when you have that, you end up with his strange, bromances with Putin that you don't know where that's going to go. And he ends up saying things that sound like appeasement and would sound like appeasement to Putin because he's gone off script. So
he's named 3 members of his cabinet who are so anti-Iranian that he's actually bound to clash with Putin in the next 6 months. And these are predictions that are now being made in think tanks in Washington. I'm not so sure he's going to stay so in such good terms with Putin in 2017. And that is my bet. That is my bet for 2017.
Right,
when it comes to choosing either, to go with Iran and therefore Putin, or to clash with Putin, he will choose clashing with
When it comes to Putin, Trump's not backing off from the Russophile rhetoric so far, like in September when he was interviewed at a defense forum broadcast by NBC television.
It's not going to have any impact. If he says great things about me, I'm going to say great things about him. I've already said he is really very much of a leader. I mean, you can say, oh, isn't that a terrible thing? He called, the man has very strong control over a country. Now, it's a very different system, and I don't happen to like the system. But certainly in that system, he's been a leader far more than our president has been a leader.
Nicolas Vado?
I've got a cartoon from Falco, which is very good, a beautiful Russian doll.
Oh, lovely.
And because it seems like this year Putin won 2 elections, one in Russia and one in America, actually. And I've got a few cartoons because he's a good client for us as well as cartoonists. Trump. I've got a few here from Jim Morin. This is from the United States, and. When he said that about Putin, that was in September. He wasn't still expecting to win, I think. And to me, which is pretty scary, is that a president-elect still has time to tweet about Saturday Night Live. That's pretty scary because you should have something else to do on Saturday night rather than watching Saturday Night Live. And I've got this one from Gado from Kenya, which is very good too as well. And so we've been going on and on about Putin. This one's from Jeff Danziger in the United States. And I was in New York a couple of weeks back, and we had a debate with Cartooning for Peace in New York with American cartoonists, and they're pretty scared about the situation, and they're scared about the freedom of speech they will keep on having or not with the Trump administration. And like you said, we have to be vigilant, because he is a scary president. I still think he is.
All right, we'll see. But there's also the Filipino Trump who's in office. Larger-than-life nationalists seem to be the rage all over. Will 2017 be the year that the gun-toting Rodrigo Duterte walks the walk when it comes to his pivot away from the United States, the former colonial power? Duterte warning Washington to prepare for the eventual repeal of the visiting forces agreement, the one that allows U.S. forces to be in the Philippines. He's angered by a U.S. government aid agency's deferral of a poverty assistance program because of concerns over extrajudicial killings in Duterte's illegal war on drugs. Thousands have been killed since his election in the spring.
We are freed from proving anything to the United States. We do not need the money. China said they will provide so many, and we'll give you the money. So bye-bye, America, and work on the protocols that will eventually move you out from the Philippines.
So he's saying bye-bye, America, but in the same speech earlier, he'd also said that he and Trump spoke the same language. We're birds of a feather, I think were his words.
He's trolling for votes, and he's trolling for support, and it plays very well in the Philippines when you say bye-bye America, and it doesn't necessarily need to mean much more than that. And the other thing, of course, is Trump is offending so many people in America that it's all right. He's not really American, he's Trump. He's the man outside the famous box, and so if you want to provoke, which is basically what he does, and he's enjoying himself doing it, then that's what you say. I would not read sort of well thought through political decisions on this.
Is Duterte a winner on?
He is.
Cartoonists?
Look at this cartoon from Sabir Nazar from Pakistan. I love this one. This is my kind of foreign policy, you son of a. And I've got a few more. This one from Ed Hall in America. Want to see what a democracy ruined by a tyrannical form of authority. You can read it over there. And this one from Chapat from Switzerland.
The spread of American democratic values. Oh dear.
And the last one, which is from Parish, who's based in India. But when I hear Duterte, it reminds me of what Beppe Grillo said this year. He said Italians should vote with their guts rather than with their brains. And that's what's been happening in 2016 all around the planet. It could happen again next year.
All right. And are people voting with emotions? If we look ahead to 2016, what's the book to read, the movie to see, the song to listen to for you?
For the next year, you mean?
For the next year, for 2017.
The U2's forthcoming album, which is called Songs of Experience, which is the follow-up of Song of Innocence, which was released in 2014. This one should be released in spring, next spring.
And Mute, how will you be arming yourself for the year to come?
There's a book called Hillbilly Elegy by...
my choice. Take my choice.
And it's an extraordinary book by a 31-year-old man who is now the head of a high-tech company in San Francisco, and he was born in the between Kentucky and Ohio from a hillbilly family, and he explains the migration inside America that gave birth to the disenfranchised electorate of Donald Trump, and he does this in this incredibly human and moving way. It's a wonderful family chronicle, and it shows, this forgotten minority of people who had unemployment and depression thrust on them again and again and again, who were told that they were worth nothing and that children would not have jobs and their situation would go wrong, and they did not matter anymore because they were not modern. They are the basket of deplorables that Hillary Clinton was talking about.
And
it's a great book.
Yeah, and written by the author himself, did break out of it thanks to, and he says, he had a support.
2 tours in Iraq, and then he went to City College for law school, and then he went to Yale.
He went to Yale Law School, and I was just going to say...
he has a brain.
No, he has a brain. I was going to say reread. I'm going to reread something in 2017. I want to go back to Philip Roth and read The Plot Against America, about the fictional scenario in which in Charles Lindbergh, running on an isolationist, almost anti-Semitic platform in 1940, beats FDR, becomes president, and what ensues in America after that.
Tracy McNichol, very briefly.
My favorite short story writer, George Saunders, an American who's brilliant, has his first full-length novel coming out after 20 years of short stories, and Lincoln in the Bardo, and that sounds great, even though it kind of makes you anxious because a short story, you're catching up with a friend who tells you a great story over a drink, and a full-length novel is you have the same friend on your couch for 2 weeks, and that's a whole different thing. So I don't know if it will be good for our relationship, but George Saunders, Lincoln in the Bardo.
All right. Well, Tracy McNichol, many thanks for being with us. I want to thank Douglas Herbert, Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, Nicolas Vado. In France, we say happy end of year because it's not yet January the 1st, so we'll say to you as well. Thank you for being with us here on France 24.